let's talk about the census. Julia's giving you why all the information is so important and why each of you in this room are very vital to the success of the 2020 census. Everybody listens to station WIIFM. WIIFM. I got people like, what is he talking about? What language is he speaking? That's not one of the 59 languages the census is going to have, WIIFM. What's in it for me? Okay? Julie has explained what's in it for you and why it's so important that we get a complete and accurate census. So Julie, thank you so much for laying the foundation for that, and I appreciate that. All right? So we're here to make sure that we count everybody, and as Julie put it in her slide, we count everyone once, only once, and in the right place. That is so very vitally important. I started out early in my career thinking that geography was not that important. Just count everybody. But if you don't put the people in the right place, it doesn't matter. So I had to find it out and go from there. Okay. So why do we conduct the decennial census? First of all, the Constitution said we have to do it. Okay. Julie has gone about and has given us prime examples of how important it is to get accurate data and the benefits from it. So we're following the Constitution. Next. The thing about the census is that the census data is used for the next 10 years. Okay, 10 years. Let's see. This is my 4th census. I was 2 years old when I started. So by the time I get 52 will be the next census coming up here. So anyway, I'm looking here at some of the things that we do next year. Constitutional requirement. Determines congressional representation, distributes federal support for education, health, and infrastructure, and it runs about average of $2,300 per Washington state resident. The federal government allocates over $675 billion a year. $675 billion a year for the next 10 years based upon the census count. So for every person we miss in the state of Washington, in King County, you're going to miss them that funding for the next 10 years. So Julie won't be able to get all of her boxes that she wants to put up because we don't know they're there. So we got to make sure that we're doing everything we go. She talked about redistricting the congressional, legislative, school districts. And how do you draw businesses here? I mean, you're here in the Northwest, here part of King County. You've got all these major corporations. You've got the high-tech industry up here. And what's drawing these people here? You're showing that you have the education here. You're showing that you have the workforce. You're showing that you've got the people here that they need to hire. You're showing that the other stats that they show, statistics they use to make decisions to relocate their businesses here. And it's based upon the census data that those corporations are using to make decisions to move into this area. I look at the fact that I used to work in Dallas, and JCPenney's moved their headquarters right outside of suburban Dallas. They sent 5 of their top senior VPs to spend 3 days with me going over census data. That was before it was on the internet and all that. But they spent 3 days in my office, one-on-one with me, going through census data. They were making decisions about their headquarters and things and targeting they were going to do. Next, please. As you notice here, as Julie already talked about, here's the funding that was allocated. Now, George Washington University does this study for all the states across the country, and they talk about how much money that the federal government allocates. And this is what for FY16 that the state of Washington got in federal funding based upon the census count. So every person you miss, it lowers that money. I'll tell you a real quick story. My mom, when her health was doing very good, used to make 4 or 5 lemon meringue pies with the meringue on the top of them. My older siblings and I, we are all grown, we would fight over who was going to get the last piece of the meringue pie. No, you already had 5 pieces. No, you already had 4. Oh, well, that's mine over there. The federal government is going to allocate that $675 billion, so somebody going to spend that money. Will you get your fair share of that money? Is the thing you have to ask yourself. Next, please. Achieving an accurate 2020 census is challenged on many levels. Here are some of the things we got. We got a polarized society. Julie, you swear you didn't see my notes before I came up? We have a polarized society, distrust of government. We have presidential primary. Plus we have, not only we have presidential elections in 2020, but we also have the Summer Olympics. So we're going to have a lot of things competing for people's attention that you've got to look at going on here. The citizenship question. The Census Bureau has been mandated that we were to go forward. It's now in the Supreme Court. We will have to wait and see what the court says. But irregardless, if the citizenship question is on there, then each of you in this room are going to have to work that much harder to get the word out to people and understand that it's so much vital loss if they do not participate in the census. And it's going to make all of our jobs a lot harder. And I will probably shrink another 5 or 6 inches if I have to go through all of that in helping people to get the count. Let's look at some of our hard-to-count populations, as Julie mentioned earlier. I'm glad that we have different people here from the different factors and working on some of the subgroups, but these are what our statistics show us as to hard-to-count people and groups in there, people with disabilities. Somebody said renters. Well, renters have a tendency to move more and don't give a care about this because I'm not long-term here as much, most renters. So they don't go. You got limited English proficiency. You got foreign-born. So there are a number of different things on there. Next, please. Okay, how are we improving for 2020? We're doing a re-engineering address canvassing. We used to go and wear out a lot of soles on shoes listing every address in the country which had a mailable address in there. We've used high tech this time. We got cartographers that sit there and digitize and use resources to decide how to know where we're going. So we estimated we were able to do 70% of the country with cartography using maps and using other sources and things to pull it in. Approximately 30% of the country, we still got to knock on doors to verify, or actually knock on doors, excuse me, but actually go and verify those neighborhoods and making sure that we have all the addresses into our master address file so that we can mail out census questionnaire. We're going to optimize self-response. For the first time, we're offering people an opportunity to be able to reply on the internet, but you don't have to, okay? My parents are 89 and 85 years old living in Kansas City, Missouri. They ain't going online and filling out no census form, okay? They know their son works for the Census Bureau. They know that I have an important job of trying to get people to participate, but they ain't gonna do that, okay? So for my parents who are not gonna do it, and other people like that, we're gonna still make sure they get a paper form, okay? We got all different methods, and we'll talk about that. We're going to use administrative records and third-party data to help us to reduce the burden and the cost of the census. We had to try to lower the tax base. And then we're re-engineering our field operations. By re-engineering our field operations, we're using handhelds. We're using iPhone 8s to go out there and do the job. And by the way, plug in for recruitment. Anybody that has a job, come work for us part-time. You don't have a job, come work for us. Students come work for us. Teachers come work for us. Come and work for us on a part-time basis. We want to hire people who live in the communities, know their communities. That's my public service announcement, all right? Thank you, all right? Next, how people are counted on 26 depends on where they live. 95% of all people will be able to respond by internet or call an 800 number to have a questionnaire assistance center to get assistance to help them out in 13 different languages, okay? And what we need this group to do is to help us identify, someone told me there were 140-something different languages in the school district here, okay? We only took the top 59 because of funding purposes. So we need you to help us by helping us to identify people who can help us translate to language and things we don't have so we can get the word out so we can count everybody once, only once in the right place. Very important. We also are going to do what's known as update leave in some areas where they're very, very rural areas where we couldn't get things done, where we actually going to go there and knock on their door and leave a questionnaire for someone to fill out. And then if they don't still respond, we're going to go and send somebody to knock on the door for non-response follow-up and go get that. And then we have very remote areas that we have that are so isolated that you can only get there by boats or planes, helicopter, Alaska, and some other areas we'll be doing things like that. So about 1% of the population. How do we conduct the census? Big picture overview. Establish where to count, motivate people to respond, self-response, group quarters, okay? We got to count people that don't live in traditional housing units, so group quarters. We got to have non-response follow-up, which is the most expensive operation we do. And then we have to tabulate the data and get it to you and release the data by April the 1st, 2020. You will have the data for, not only will you have it just for Washington State, but for King County down to the block group level, and being able to help to redraw your lines for congressional, for elections, for school boards, for a number of different things going to be going on. Next, please. Establish where to count and motivate people to respond. So we're going to identify all addresses where people could live. Your definition of a house unit may not be the same as mine, so we have regulations that state what a housing unit is. Is it protected from the elements? Does it have a roof on it? Is a house unit? Is a tent? We can use it. There are all different kind of things you can use for a housing unit to be able to go in with it, all right? So we're re-engineering how we're going to do address canvassing for the 2020 census, which I asked, and we know that there are also people living in group quarters and people experiencing homelessness. So we do have procedures to count homelessness. Now here's where you come into the fold for this, okay? You have the responsibility, and we're depending on you to help us to identify those services that cater toward the homeless populations. We don't know all of them with the Census Bureau, but you do. We got to tap up on the local knowledge. One thing I've learned and got my feelings hurt in my 44th census I worked on, Michael Hall doesn't know everything. Michael Hall cannot do everything himself. Everybody don't trust me. Oh, come on. Everybody doesn't trust me. So I've got to get trusted voices out here that are going to sell and get people to understand the importance of what we're doing here and why we're doing it. All right, motivating people. We're going to conduct non-response follow-up, but let me let you on a secret. Y'all are going to do such a great job of spreading the importance of the census. Each and every one of you and all of your closest friends are going to sell the census so well that those 465,000 people we estimate we're going to need to do non-response follow-up, people who don't respond to the census either online or calling us, you all are going to reduce that number, save the taxpayers a whole lot of money, and get everybody to fill out that questionnaire online or call into the questionnaire census center, or probably like I have to do, send my brother, my sister over to my parents and help them fill it out so we can get it anytime. Okay? So you do what you got to do. But we know that we're going to be able to depend on you to do that for us. Okay? What do we ask? Here are the questions here. Everybody gets asked the same set of questions. The asterisk on there is the citizenship. We will know from the Supreme Court ruling. I've heard that it's supposed to happen this month. I also heard July, but someone told me in Salem yesterday that it's April 23rd, 25th, or whatever the Supreme Court is happening. They may not come out the ruling, but they're having a hearing on this, and we will know whether we're going to have to ask the citizenship question or not. And then I'll start going talking to my psychiatrist and asking, give me some sleeping pills at night if we have to go through that. So we will do this, all right? Here are the languages that we're going to be covering. 13 basic languages that the internet self-responds, that people will be able to respond, and it'll be in these different 13 languages on here. Some households we're going to mail not only the postcard, but we're also going to mail the questionnaire in a select number of households. We're using hard-to-count data scores and things to historically show where to make that decision at. I don't know whether those are yet right now. They're still determining those. But we'll be sending that data. We'll be sending English and Spanish forms in some areas as well, too, in addition to card. We're also going to have 13 languages when you call into the telephone assistance centers to help. Plus, we're going to have TDD for you to be able to use. Our enumerators will have their information in English and in Spanish on the questionnaire on their phone, which they'll be able to do. But here's where we increase, but not quite there yet. We've got 59 languages where we have a card that we will say, we knock on your door, or you can't, and we'll ask you which one, show you the language card, and you point to which language it is. We will find somebody that speaks that language to help you out. Our partners are going to be working with us, helping us identify people who can speak that language for us. We want you to help us to get people to recruit that will be working for the Census Bureau that speak one of those 141 minus 59 languages that we don't have things for from right here about the school district here. That is a very vital and important role that you can play in helping us go. Plus, we're going to have ASL plus Braille plus large print, because some of us getting older because we've been doing this for a while, so we need the larger print to see what's going on. Okay? I talked about the different things. Some people are going to have internet first, where we're going to encourage them to fill out it on the internet, but we realize that some people are going to have a choice and don't want to do it, so we already are looking at what areas we're going to send the questionnaire and the postcard, and then we're going to send them a second mailing out letter saying, hey, did you get it? Okay? And then we're going to send a third one if you haven't responded by time on a postcard. And then we're going to send a fourth one, a letter and a questionnaire out to you and say, come on now, please. And then we're going to send you a fifth mail and say, well, we're starting to deploy people to knock on doors. If you don't want somebody knocking on your door, you better go online, or you better call the Questionnaire Assistance Center and get them to fill it out. And if they do it, we can instantly pull it back from the work, because with new technology, we're going to assign work by when people are available. Let's say I can only work Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday from 5 to 9, and I can work Saturday from 9 to 5. Okay? If that's when you work, we will give you assignments based on that. So we will pull work out and give work accordingly to what the actual response. And we're going to have real-time response that we'll have, so you can see where we're at down to the track level. Okay? Census confidentiality. I love this slide. Okay? We are very serious. I'm going to pull the others up there. We're very serious about confidentiality. Let's face it, there are a number of statistical gathering agencies across the country that make money by collecting data. But what is the secret to the Census Bureau's success? Trusted voices and confidentiality. We are dead serious about that 5-year, $250,000 fine for violating confidentiality, leaking out information to you. I have to take a test reminding me of that every year, and have to pass the test to remind me of that and show my score of what that I understand about confidentiality, either during or after my employment. Okay, that's how serious we take confidentiality. And I'm going to tell y'all like I used to tell my kids. Don't go to jail for stealing a candy bar at 7-Eleven. Go rob Fort Knox and make me proud of you. Okay? So we want to make sure that you understand that we take confidentiality very serious, and we would love to make an example out of somebody, at least I would, make an example out of somebody about violating confidentiality. I think it would send a strong message to everybody if we actually had the proof of somebody doing that. But it's not only while you're working, but it's after you're working, the Census Bureau. So if I get to retire, hopefully in the next 3 years, I get to retire, and I go back and say, I know Julie's information, and I start telling people what I collect from the census, guess what? I could spend 5 of those years in jail, and I ain't got $250,000. I still owe school loans on my daughter from going to college. Fortunately, my son went to University of Washington, got a scholarship, so I didn't have to pay for that. Okay? National and local partnerships. You all have a lot of high tech, a lot of big businesses here. You got Amazon, you got Alaska Airlines, you got Starbucks, you got all these major corporations up here in Washington State up here that are here. We are working with them in various stages to become partners. They're asking us, what can we do for you to help you spread the census? But there are so many different people working with them, and some of them, to be honest, have decided that while we're going to work with you, we don't want to be publicly working with you right now because we're worried about that citizenship question. Okay, Walmart, for example, like a lot of our constituents are people who are going to be affected by the citizenship question. So we kind of line them on like, you know, we want to support you. We understand the importance of the census. We'll work, but I ain't sure I want to sign any documents saying and you putting it out publicly with it. So we have to worry about, we have to be concerned about that. All right, I'm getting my sign. Next, leverage voices. You are the trusted voices, not me. They don't know me. We will give you the words. I've got a wonderful partnership staff here. We're growing here with staff. They will be more than happy to help you to go out and spread importance. And as Julie said, all the different groups that are out there. We are hiring, okay? We have an office already open in Seattle. The slide says July of 2019, but let me put a caveat. that when you're space leasing, there are a number of things that can go wrong. So we're saying we have all the contracts and everything in place, but we got to make sure the build outs are done. We got to make sure that the equipment is got there for all these offices all across the country. And then we got to make sure the IT equipment is put in there. We got to make sure the managers are hired. So by September, we will have all these offices open in the state of Washington. Where we'll have managers and people working, and the census is local. We want local people, okay? Here's some key dates. 2019, validate all residential units in the country. The advertising national campaign will actually start in January of 2020. Start advertising going in. March 23rd will be the first day you'll be able to fill out your census questionnaire online. Call the questionnaire Census Center for it. Census Day, April 1, we're going to stand up on the corner of the United States and we're going to take a panoramic view of the country, and it's going to be as of April 1st of 2020. You're all going to have everybody prepared for that. Starting in April, we'll start going to some of the major colleges where the students are at before they try to get out here after finals and collect them, because we count students where they go to school at. Because if that student is not there, another student is going to be there, so it's still going to be impact on that community. And then by the way, when non-response follow-up operations say people still can respond, and if they respond online or they call it, we can pull them out of the database. Nobody can still knock on their door. December 31st, 2020, those who have project management, we will get the president of resident population of the United States on December 31st, 2020, no later than that. And by March 31st of 2021, we will have the counts for you to be able to do your redistricting and reallocations for all the states and counties, cities. What can we do? These are some sources that can help you to go in, and things you can go to and look at to help us to go. And then we have next with connecting with us on different ways you can connect. We're trying to be social media and things with it. Thank you very much for your time.